Alright guys, Hazink here. Welcome back to the channel for another Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis video. So in this one I'm going to be going in depth and talking about team building and how you can basically get the most out of your teams to beat the most amount of content within the game. There's various little caveats within this system that allow you to really excel and do a lot more with your teams, and the game actually provides you with a lot of different loadouts to allow you to actually position yourself to have teams for beating certain content without having to actually do too much messing about on the fly. So I'm going to go over that in today's video and explain a little bit more about how the weapon system actually affects your teams and how your teams are going to perform in various content. So if you are a little bit lost, this is most definitely the video for you. Right, so let's get the first thing out of the way. A lot of people were excited when they heard that this game was going to be a weapon gacha. You had access to all the characters, so you didn't need to worry about summoning for your favourite character. Now, what we need to kind of put aside for 1 minute is the fact that every character will perform the way that they performed in their mainline games. That's not the case, okay? The best way to look at this is the weapons themselves are almost like characters where they're going to fill a role within your team, okay? So in other games, you might have to summon to get, say, a support character or a healer or whatever. You don't do that here. Instead, you summon for the weapon that fills that role, okay? So now we've got that out of the way, we're going to go in and look at two main scenarios if you're building teams, okay? So I'm going to go in and look at solo party. So first up, I'm going to use the exact same two teams, but they're loaded out completely differently, and I'll show you what's different about them in an actual battle, and then we'll come back, okay? So, first one, this one. This would be what I'm calling a damage team, okay? Now, I'll explain to you what makes this a damage team now. So if we go in and look at the first character, what I've basically done is this team is loaded out with two weapons. These weapons are basically there to provide attack, right? So this first weapon is going to provide this skill here, deal 340% physical wind damage, all enemies, okay? So this is kind of one of my farming weapons, so to speak. If we look at the sub weapon, from this weapon I get this skill, which is slashing thrust, deals 500% physical non-elemental damage to a single enemy, and being on here as well, we also get, I think it's the R ability, it's one of the R abilities. We'll take it off and I'll show you which R ability it adds. So if we remove that, we'll go back down. So you can see here that it's this one here. I think it boosts the attack, so that's on there for that reason. So anyway, these two weapons are on here basically to provide me with high damage attacks, okay? If I look at Cloud, you can see I've done the same thing. We've got this one here to provide Thunderstrike, and we've also got his secondary weapon, which is here to provide Blast Wave. So I've got a single target, and I've also got an AoE on there, okay? Now, with regards to the final character on here, just for safety, we've got Aerith. She is on here, obviously, as our healer on the team. We've only got one main healing source, and it's all going to come from Aerith. A lot of it's going to come from Fairy Tail, but we've also got another weapon on her so that she can also do some damage to units as well. Now that's not the only part of her loadout and the rest of the loadouts that's important. We're now going to look at the sub-equips, okay, and this kind of dictates the rest of the performance, right? So on this team specifically, Aerith is my only healer, right? So if I was challenging a stage that, let's just say, was a little bit more difficult, having just Aerith doing the healing might not be enough. So if the stage was particularly challenging, I might not go with this all-out attack kind of setup, right? But for stages that I feel like I should be able to get by with just the one healer, what I've done is I've boosted up her healing potential, okay, with her sub weapons. So you can see here, by having Guard Stick on here, we're boosting the healing potential. I've also done the same thing on this slot, boosting the healing potential, and on this slot we've boosted HP to keep her alive, because you want your healer to stay alive, okay? Now obviously as I level those weapons, you get more boosts from these substats, okay? So basically with this character, because she's in a state where she is going to be more or less our sole healer within this entire setup, I've done everything I can to make sure when she is healing, she's going to be healing a lot more, doing a lot more but recovery of the HP lost and stuff like that. Now, because it is an all-out attack team, I've done the exact opposite thing with my 2 damage dealers. I've gone with boost HP here just because Cloud is probably my strongest character, so I want to keep him alive, dishing out damage. And for my other 2 substats, you'll see that I've gone with boost attack, and again, boost attack. Now, just like before, the more these weapons are leveled, the more I'm going to get from them as they get stronger, okay? Now, if we look at the final one, same thing for Zac. You'll see here that with Zac, we've gone boost attack, and at the bottom, boost attack. I've just got him all out boosting attack because he's not got quite as much damage capability as my Cloud right now, so I've tried to compensate for that by putting these weapons on him to boost his attack additionally via his sub-weapons, okay? So these weapons won't provide you with any new attacks or anything like that. They'll simply provide boosts to certain stats, right? So it's important that while you can just hit apply best, right, and it does do an okay job, it won't necessarily always apply the best things to your characters for what you're specifically wanting to do with them at that point, right? So if I was just looking to, say, push through dungeons or stuff like that, this team would be ideal, right? But let's say I was taking on something that maybe was a little bit harder, right? And I was going to use the same team. Here's a kind of alternative loadout, right? So taking on something that's a little bit more challenging, maybe Aerith wouldn't have enough in the tank to keep up with healing. You maybe need someone else just to top it up every so often. This is when you can do something like this with your loadout, right? So I'm still using the same main attack weapon, right? So we've still got our main attack weapons, but where I've really changed things up is the sub-weapons, right? So, or the secondary weapon. So for Zac, we've gone with Enhanced Sword, Magic Heal is cast, potential 81% of healing, range single ally. So that's just going to be a quick boost to one ally if they really need it during the battle, okay? With the next one, we've gone with Cloud, and on this one, it's the Crystal Sword. Magic Heal is cast, 50% of healing potential to all allies. Now, when you level these things up, just to show you, if we go into the Crystal Sword, and if we go to Enhance, how this would work is if we raise the rarity, right? So if we were to over boost the rarity, you can see here that this gets stronger, but that requires dupes. Now over time you'll get that, right? You will get dupes, don't worry about it. But these things will get stronger. So having this sword, he is going to be sitting there having a cure all, basically, a heal all within your team that will go alongside Aerith, who on this team is pretty much filling the same function she did in the last team. She is going to be a healer, but because she's not the only healer in this team, I've changed it slightly so that she is boosting things like her magic attack. Because she is a magic user, that means her magic attack is going to do more damage. So while she is still a healer, she's not the only healer on this team, so I've actually given her a little bit more potential to help with damage, right? So that's you basically catering your loadouts to allow you to challenge different content than you maybe would be able to challenge if you just simply went with the whole standard, what am I going to do? Hit best equip. Because if I hit best equip just now, it'll completely change all this, right? But if you're building your teams to challenge specific things, then your teams will function differently. So let's go ahead and take a look. If we go into Home, we go to Solo Content, we go to Enhancement Quests, go to Training Quests, I'll just get them some levels. In fact, you know what? Actually, I won't. I'll go into Enhancement Quests. No, actually, do you know what? I'll go to Weapons Quests, because I can always use more of these. Let's see, how far down can we go? Go to this one, Weapon Enhancement 7, right? We'll have a look at how the power team does, like again, how it gets on. I've set this team up, like I say, to try and quickly beat stages so that if you are farming, you can kind of get through it at a decent pace. We've got 2 AoEs from our damage dealers. We have got our healer at the back, providing us with support should be taking enough damage that we might die, but she is the only one on here because I feel like we won't be taking enough damage that we would need to worry about healing too much. So having just the one on there and optimising her to kind of push out as much healing as possible stands us in the best stead to kind of push through here without slowing things down too much, right? Because when you're farming, you more or less want to try and get through it as quickly as possible, because let's be honest, without having like an auto repeat function or skip tickets or anything like that, farming can get a little bit tedious, right? It can. So the quicker you can farm your way through stages, obviously the better for you, because then it gets you back in doing things that you might have more fun doing in game. So everybody's now taking a decent bit of damage. Aerith should be able to heal us all back to full health, I believe, because she has got a lot of healing potential about her. So there you go, she cast her heal. We've pretty much all got near full health, not far from it. And if we now do this with her limit break, it should be enough to get everyone back to full health. And I think that would have taken, what, about maybe a minute and a half? Because of the animations, maybe longer, but it feels like it's quick. So that's that done. Now, there we go. So we've now taken care of those guys, and this stage is now complete. Quite quickly, I want to say, didn't take too long. So now we're going to look at the difference with the healing team, right? Now the healing team again, more or less would be something that I would use if I was in a situation where I thought, this might be a little bit tricky, right? So I think what we'll do is we will try the next stage up, because the next stage up is more difficult, right? Let's try the next stage up. Go to here. Now I will see a drop in power, mainly because my loadout is fairly different, right? I have not upgraded these weapons enough. I'll just tell you that now, right? If we go and look, like that's only at level 1 just now, right? Ideally, you want to be doing this when these are at a higher level. That's at level 1. I would stand myself in a lot better stead here of this being successful if I actually had leveled this up, because it will boost my stats as well. But you know what? It's an experiment. We're going to go into it and we're going to see how this team copes. A lot of healing here, a lot of healing. So when we do take damage, we should be able to get relatively quickly back to full health, right? Which in theory would allow us to push harder content, because as you can see, we are going by power rating, we are underpowered for this level, okay? And you can see there, if you look at the attacks along the bottom, you can see that Healing Wave is now Cloud's second ability, which means if we do really get into trouble, he can cast that and he'll give us potentially 50% of our HP back, right? Now again, remember guys, if you are doing this, it does make a lot more sense to do this when you've got the weapons a little bit more leveled, simply because they're going to have a higher potential, they're going to be able to perform better, and overall your stats aren't going to take a hit because you've put in level 1 weapons like I've done here, okay? But we've still pushed on to the final boss. Now these guys can hit hard, right? These guys have got the potential when they cast their special to take over 1000 HP off of us, okay? So depending on how this goes here, it might not make it through simply because we have we have got our stats slightly decreased because I've done this. I've used these under-leveled weapons at this point, okay? But I've done it because I'm trying to provide a visual of how building your teams differently can help you push harder content, basically. So they're probably going to cast their Skeleton in a minute and it's going to hurt. But we are back at full health, so potentially speaking, we should be able to hopefully take this hit and survive. We did, nice. Now, if we can get the healing back, we'll start to build ourselves back up, which is nice. Now we've only got 2 of the enemies left. Now obviously this is taking a little bit longer, but remember, we are at the moment punching above our weight, okay? We are hitting enemies that probably we should not be going for just now, because we should really have pushed our levels a little bit higher just to make sure we had enough power to comfortably take these guys out, okay? So that's us got the interrupt in. We're going to get another set of limit breaks here, which is good, very good. everyone's get back to full health again because we've got so much healing going on within this team. I'm just watching because I want to cast the full team limit break. Cloud, where's our limit break, my boy? There we go. There we go. We'll go through this one here. Nice. Do this one again. Hit you. We've got our healing back once again. Awesome. And we're just about to take this person out. Cloud, you don't need to be that cautious. There you go, my boy. So you can see there that we pushed the harder content using this team that, again, it's still not fully optimised because we don't have all the weapons leveled up to make sure we're getting the most from our stats and stuff like that. But just to show you an example of how it helps, that power team that I showed you guys earlier, the one that we used to beat the stage where we knew we could comfortably beat, I'm going to show you what happens if I take it into this stage, okay? So again, this team has been built with the function of do as much damage as quickly as possible. The only healing you're going to get is going to come from the back with Aerith. She is the only one on this team that is really going to be providing us with any sort of a support or healing. But again, because I've ramped up the damage that these two boys can do, we should in theory not need as much healing from her, simply because they should be killing the enemies fast enough that we don't necessarily need to spend a lot of time being healed, okay? So we're moving through here. I think, is this wave 2 or wave 3? If this is wave 3, we've gone pretty fast actually. I think this is only wave 2 though. Yeah, wave 2. So now we're on to wave 3. Now this can be a bit more challenging. These guys can hit pretty hard because of their level, right? But we've got Aerith there, providing us with support. She'll also have her limit break, which is a heal limit break as well. I don't think I've changed it on this team. I might have changed it on this team actually, I'm not 100% sure. So I'm just going to wait until all three load up. So basically the moral of the story, guys, is if you are taking on certain content and you know that maybe it's going to be a little bit more of a struggle for you to beat certain stages, right? Team power isn't necessarily the only thing that will dictate if you will beat a stage. You've seen yourself there that we were able to beat that stage that was above our level because the team itself was geared around sustainability. It was geared around staying alive, and that team wasn't even fully optimized because I had put no levels into those healing weapons. If those healing weapons were leveled, it would have done so much more, you know? It would have done it far faster, far quicker, and the result would have still been the same, just faster, which means that if you can't always beat something, it's not necessarily about going out there and doing more levels to get EXP, spending loads of time grinding just to level up certain other aspects of your characters. Sometimes literally just having different teams, different loadouts for your main team to challenge different content is going to allow you to push on a lot further and punch a lot higher than maybe you should be able to punch just by being smart with what you're putting on your units. So guys, these team building mechanics that we have, view them more as not necessarily weapons, but the function of those weapons. So you've got your healing, your support, your damage. Remember it like that. Load out your teams based on what you're trying to take on, and you'll have a lot more success. Anyway guys, I've been Hazing. Thank you very much for watching this. If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing, like the video, comment, all that good stuff. I do other gacha content, Street Fighter Duel, this. Probably going to be doing a couple of other games pretty soon that I like the look of. So if you're down for that, drop a sub. Catch you in the next one. Peace.